The Philokalia, a paraphrase by Eddie Bromley. Introduction. Philokalia means lover of beauty or lover of what is good. The Philokalia is a collection of texts written between the 4th and 15th centuries by spiritual masters from the Eastern Orthodox Church. The texts were originally written to guide monks in the contemplative life. A wider readership developed as a result of translators making the Philokalia available in several major languages. The availability of these texts revealed a deeper hunger felt by laity and clergy, Eastern and Western alike, for the spiritual riches preserved by the Eastern Church. Together, these texts present us with a comprehensive guide to the Hesychatic tradition, a way of approaching the contemplative life. The Hesychatic tradition is one of the unique gifts that the Eastern Church has to offer to the West. A hesychast is one who seeks tranquility by learning to turn from distractions, both exterior and interior. The hesychast achieves tranquility through nepsis. Nepsis is a state of wakefulness or watchfulness by which one becomes fully open to and aware of God. According to this tradition, humans are fractured and out of sync with God and themselves. The practice of achieving nepsis happens as we allow God to bring our whole self into sync with the life of the Spirit. The goal is wholeness, so that the total person may experience the life of God. The intellect is one of the areas that are out of sync with the spiritual life. The intellect seeks to categorize and to objectify persons, dealing with them as things rather than being present to them as persons. The intellect does this with God as well as with other human beings. The imagination, though like the intellect is a function of the mind, has another tendency. The imagination wants to dwell in the past or to project itself into the future, being discontent with living in the present, the only place where God can be encountered and where we can encounter our true selves. One goal of achieving nepsis is to become dispassionate or apathetic. This idea is uniquely Eastern and needs some explanation for Western Christians. Dispassion is not about becoming an emotionless robot. Instead, it is about learning to stop allowing our emotions to dominate our actions and thoughts. For example, if you have ever had the experience of losing your temper and doing something out of character, you know of that to which I am referring. Emotions are part of the way God has made us. However, God intends for our emotions to serve us in living a sanctified life. God did not intend for our emotions or passions to be in the driver's seat. The point is not to stifle our emotions, but to harness and direct our emotions. The Hesychastic masters never intended for people to practice these disciplines in isolation or cut off from the life of the church. Instead, the masters envisioned the hesychastic tradition as being firmly rooted within the sacramental life. The hesychastic tradition is not the same thing as the Western heresy known as Quietism. Quietism viewed the highest form of Christian spirituality as being someone who no longer needed the church, the sacraments, or theology. By contrast, the hesychastic tradition is built upon and grows from the sacramental life of the church. The sacraments, or mysteries of the church, are where we meet God. They set up the encounter with the divine. However, they can take us only so far. At some point, we have to go beyond the bounds of our imagination, intellect, and emotions. When we do, we will find ourselves standing in the unmediated presence of God. Hesychasts refer to this as pure prayer. Pure prayer, what in the West is called contemplation, is merely enjoying being in the presence of God and allowing God to enjoy being in our presence. Nepsis is a willingness to stay in God's presence in this way. The benefit of nepsis is that it aids in what the Eastern Church calls theosis, or divinization. Theosis is the experience of the human person, body, mind, and spirit, being welcomed into the divine life. When this happens, we share in God's triune life. All of that said, there are several obstacles or spiritual dangers that attend the path towards nepsis. One is a great difficulty detaching from powerful thoughts and emotions. Beginning the goal of achieving pure prayer will often bring us into contact with those areas of our heart and mind that are most broken, dysfunctional, and dark. It can be frightful, painful, and confusing to encounter these things about ourselves. Facing them may lead some to need help from a gifted spiritual director or mental health professional. 2. Some who seek to be fully present to God have trouble moving past self-focus. When this happens, some will experience intense despair and discouragement. The problem is naivety. Our society has conditioned us to expect that achievement in any area of life can be had quickly without a great deal of cost and sacrifice. Third, for some, achieving stillness before God may feel like death, nihilism, or as if they were standing and staring into an infinite chasm. One is never so vulnerable and naked as when they are in the company of only themselves and God. Fourth, some who begin to make progress towards nepsis may find that they enjoy a particular part of the journey and end up stationary at what should be a transitional phase. Fifth, others who begin to make progress may end up with attachments to transitory experiences, natural or supernatural, which are part of the journey, but which are meant to be temporary. Sixth, some who begin making progress towards nepsis may experience ego inflation, thinking of themselves as something special or somehow spiritually superior to others. Seventh, the Philokalia is a lifelong companion and guide. It is not meant that we should read it all at once and then set it down as we might another sort of book. Eighth, the Philokalia is not a self-help book. The best use of the Philokalia happens under the guidance of a spiritual father or mother. Absent this, we need to make an additional commitment to being a part of the sacramental life of the church, whether or not we have a spiritual mother or father.